Welcome to A Friendly Debate, brought to you by Off the Record. A Friendly Debate is the show where two of our debaters square off an impassioned, yet ultimately unconvincing argument, and the moderator is tasked with deciding the winner arbitrarily, where the only prize is bragging rights, and perhaps a point or two. We aim to change the hearts and minds of anyone listening, but we're going to fall short every single episode. My name is Patrick Grimaldi, and I'll be leading us through this episode of Aliens versus Ghosts. We've got two heavyweights. Two titans of
industry.
Titans of industry. Sultans of swag. We've got two people that have JDs and are bar certified. They're going to talk about this topic. So let's introduce our debaters. Hailing from the gator-riddled swamplands of Florida, we have David Mucci. Hello. David will be arguing the side of ghosts.
That's right.
And opposite him, arguing for aliens, we have Orlando Carreño.
Hey, Pat. I'm feeling very confident about this one.
Great. It's so great to have you guys here. So, how are you guys feeling? Any pre-debate nerves? I know you were together last night for Halloween. I'm sure there was just boiling, blood underneath the surface here.
Well, there always is. But.
Yeah, it's an understatement.
You can't have two bulls in a room, right?
Not at all. There was a little bit of a tension last night.
And Mucci, correct me if I'm wrong. I heard everyone was looking at your ass. Is this true? Am I to understand that you have what they might call a tight caboose?
I don't know if it's... Well, yeah.
Is it tight?
Well, maybe that's a debate for another time. We've gotten sidetracked here already. So let's flip a coin to see which of our debaters is going to go first. Orlando, do you want to call heads or tails?
I do. I'm going to call heads.
All right, let's get this underway. That looks like heads.
All right.
Orlando, you're going first with aliens. So to give first-time viewers here a bit of structure to follow this along. What did I say, viewers? That's fine. That's fine. I'm watching this in my mind. Later. So the breakdown of this debate will be as follows. We'll allow a brief opening statement for each debater. And then I, as the moderator, is going to have a couple questions just to kind of queue up, give a little bit of a routine here for how I want these issues to be unfolded. Of course, I retain the absolute right to break up any actual fights that we might get into here in the studio. Anyways, we're going to end with some closing arguments, and then I'll render my decision as very much a partial arbitrator. So, let's get to it.
In all of recorded history, man has looked up to the stars, charted them for navigation, used them in calendars, and told stories about them. With roughly 100 billion stars in a galaxy and 2 trillion galaxies in the universe, of course we've wondered what's out there since being able to comprehend the ability to even leave a planet. As of this year, we are the closest we've ever been into realizing that we have been visited by extraterrestrials. And this is in large part due to one of my favorite musical artists, Tom DeLonge. The former Blink-182 member, Angels and Airwaves frontman, has led the charge in convincing the United States government into releasing confidential information relating to videos, files, and pictures of the unexplained and unidentified aerial phenomenon. But this newly released information is just the tipping point in terms of credible evidence for the argument that aliens exist. Of course, we could go on and on all day listing off example after example of people observing strange lights in the sky, to people observing ships landing, and to individuals observing extraterrestrials actually stepping foot on Earth. But I'd like to point out just a few examples of sightings that I find very interesting and that they seem perfectly credible with no other explanation other than aliens. From the balls of light dubbed the Foo Fighters, observed circling World War II era U.S. Air Force pilots in erratic flight movements that cannot be explained by technology in either their time or in ours, to an amazing abduction story that involved tracking of a former military man who went on to have a full legal career. These stories strike particularly credible considering they involve individuals who would know what a plane looks like, what the modern technology could do, and what is way outside the realm of technology in the air. Furthermore, Speaking out to your superiors about witnessing such a thing in the military would be completely out of the question if it didn't happen. There have been plenty of such reliable, credible, and recorded accounts from around the world to not believe that aliens exist. So, even if we were to completely forget about the statistical improbability that we are alone in the universe, even if one of these pictures, videos, or first-hand accounts is true, that means we are not alone.
Not to be the Scully to Orlando's Mulder, but stories of aliens or UFO sightings are no more plausible than stories of ghost encounters. Orlando seems to argue that science supports the existence of aliens, and therefore claims of aliens encounters and abductions are inherently more worthy or believable than claims of ghost sightings or hauntings. But science can no more prove the existence of aliens than it can disprove the existence of ghosts. I'm going to convince you not that ghosts exist, but that the existence of aliens that have actually visited our planet and abducted people is just as implausible as the existence of ghosts. Now, belief that there's some life somewhere else in this incomprehensibly massive and expanding universe is more of a matter of probability than science. The universe is so incredibly vast that the probability that some life exists somewhere else out there is high. And science has been able to get us there to some extent. The hugeness of the universe makes the existence of life somewhere out there probable. But there's still a leap in logic from that science-based probability to the belief that aliens have been to our planet and abducted humans. Stories of alien abductions are just as outrageous as ghost stories. People have been seeing aliens or UFOs since, about the 1940s? And people have been saying they've been seeing ghosts for millennia. Probably the oldest written account of a haunted house is by Pliny the Younger, a lawyer, author, and magistrate of ancient Rome, who wrote about a ghost haunting a house in ancient Greece, which was bought by the Greek philosopher Athenodorus. Athenodorus bought the house having heard of the hauntings of a ghost in chains. Then, when he was living in the house, saw the ghost and heard his clanking chains exactly as was described to him. The ghost pointed to a corner of the room, which he marked with an X and dug up the next day, finding a skeleton in chains. After it was properly buried, the ghost stopped haunting the house. And then in 856 AD, the first poltergeist was reported at a farmhouse in Germany, which reportedly tormented the family living there by throwing stones and starting fires. Now, most of the alien abduction stories you hear start around the 1940s or 50s, when the possibility of space exploration was on the horizon, and 20th century works of science fiction gave everyone wild ideas about the possibilities of extraterrestrial visitation. And then, why is it that aliens only came starting in that decade, or those decades? Did aliens only recently, in the past 100 years or so, get the capabilities to travel to our planet? I mean, how likely is that? Just as many people have claimed that a particular area is a hotspot for alien abductions, many people have claimed hauntings in particular houses, hospitals, graveyards, and other places. Many people have claimed to see ghosts at the Civil War battlefield of Gettysburg, for instance. And of course, just here in Chicago, there have been stories upon stories of people who stayed at the Congress Plaza Hotel and saw, heard, or felt a ghost, including beings that would grab their feet or pull the covers off of them when they were in bed. People have seen the ghost there of Peg Leg Johnny, believed to be the ghost of a homeless man who was murdered in the alley behind the hotel, and reportedly has turned the lights on and off like Nosferatu in SpongeBob. People have also reported seeing the ghost of a 6-year-old boy whose mother dropped him and his brother out of a hotel window before throwing herself out of the same window. And the most haunted room there is room 441, where people have reported seeing a dark figure who kicks them awake, seeing objects moving, and hearing terrifying noises. It's not just one person who has reported seeing this, it's a number of people, especially those who risk staying in room 441. Skeptics have often tried to explain away ghost sightings through science, or explain that it's just a trick of the light or a draft, or just an old house setting. But those skeptics can't explain why several people can visit the same location and claim to have seen the same type of ghost that they can describe in the same way as others who came before them. And one can be just as skeptical about sightings of a flying saucer, that it's a government craft, or it's the planet Venus, or it's just a satellite. Alien stories are just as unverifiable as ghost stories, and in the end, for many of the same reasons, just come down to your personal belief.
All right, thanks for that, Mucci. All right, guys, thanks for giving us somewhat of a primer on what you're going to discuss today. As a moderator, there's some things that I'd like answered because I have not been briefed on either of these topics at all. So, in general, I'd like if you could tell me, do aliens or ghosts exist? Further, what event, an abduction or haunting, provides the best evidence for your side? Also, do you have any personal connections to your topic? Any comments on which has a better depiction in the media, I'd always appreciate. And zooming out a bit, what is the more unnerving realization? That we are not alone in the universe, or that there's an afterlife? So, that being said, let's jump into first question here. Bottom line, do aliens, ghosts, both, neither exist? Want to jump on that, Lando?
Yes.
I see you just clenching your fists.
So I absolutely think that aliens exist. Not only because of the credible sightings. There's a couple of cases that I briefly talked about in my opening. Specifically, a case with Terry Lovelace.
This is the AG.
Yes, he was he's a former prosecutor, man of my own kind. So obviously, I'm going to believe him.
Inherently trustworthy.
There's been some cherry picking going
Inherently trustworthy. So he's
no comment from Mucci on that last bit.
Oh, I proposed it. I said
it. He's got a crazy story. A friend of his invited him camping. The two of them go to this, remote spot in a clearing.
Oh, I've seen this movie.
Of course, yeah. It's been depicted in the media. Yeah, of course. Probably started with him. But yeah, he wrote a book about this where him and his friend went camping. They were both in the Air Force at the time. They get pulled into some kind of trance where they're just feeling calm when they see lights approaching them. And when these lights approach them, they just sort of are not bothered by it because they're in this trance.
And what year is this? Sorry?
This was in the 70s. So I believe it was 1977. So they go in this trance, and they just kind of forget about these lights in the sky as the lights are coming towards them. They go to bed, and then Terry wakes up in the middle of the night. His friend's looking out the tent, crying, telling them that they're still out there, that they were hurt, that they took them up there, and that they're still around. Terry doesn't remember any of this stuff, but he starts getting flashes throughout the years of what happened. Several years later, I think it was decades actually, that he goes to the hospital with a bad knee or something, and they find an implant in his knee. And there's no scar. The doctor's asking about a scar. They're kind of looking at where the scar would be. There's no scar. The implant looks like it's stemming up his body.
You say an implant, not like a knee replacement or anything like...
No. So I believe he said that he hadn't had any kind of surgery or anything. And the doctor didn't see any kind of scar. Terry didn't say anything about a scar. So, this book was just incredible. I read it after I heard a podcast.
I'm sorry, so what was in his knee? You said an implant.
It's like some sort of device or some sort of...
Tracking device?
I think what he alludes to is that it was some sort of tracking device, because the rest of the book and the rest of the interviews that I've heard of him, he talks about how not only did he have this encounter when he went camping, but that he started regaining memories from when he was a child. And then I think there was a further x-ray that implant was gone, but there was something smaller.
Memories of being abducted when he was a child, right?
Yes, yeah. Memories of being abducted as a
prior
child.
Abduction.
Correct. So,
what's his book called, by the way?
It's called The Incident at Devil's Den.
Okay, there'll be a link in the bio if you want to purchase it through Amazon. Throw us a couple bucks.
So the reason why I find this so interesting is because I just don't see why he would make this up. I don't see why this is something that...
Is that not the case with like a lot of these things? It's like, oh, they have no reason to make it up, and it turns out that, they just did.
Well, I mean, like I said, so he's a former prosecutor. He's retired now. I just don't see why this would benefit him. I don't think he's becoming a millionaire off this book that no one's really heard of. So this is one of the kind of incidents that I find very believable. It sounds fantastic. So, he's got a great imagination if he made it all up. But, then again, it's in a book, so.
And I'm familiar with this story. I've read the same podcast. I haven't read the book, but it really doesn't sound any different than what you'd see in, the X-Files or any kind of science fiction show or movie. It just sounds like a story that he could have, gotten from the public consciousness and influenced his thinking. And he had maybe some weird encounter out there in the 70s, maybe with some psychedelics or something like that. Or
that was going to be my question.
Yes, right. But actually, he did have sunstroke, or they fell asleep outside, and it seemed like they had sunstroke, and some of the symptoms seemed like symptoms of a sunstroke. So this story, I digress, but this story doesn't sound any more believable than a story of, I went to this house, and things were moving around, and I saw a figure in the corner, or, for example, I went to Gettysburg, and I saw ghosts of Civil War veterans on the battlefield. It doesn't sound any more believable to me. It sounds like something he wanted to believe, or he heard from that he got from just the decades of science fiction around these abduction stories.
So you're saying it's just derivative, basically.
Yeah, it's derivative. Well,
I think I would agree with you, Mucci, if there wasn't the whole military aspect of it. The two of them were in the military. They were in the Air Force at the time.
I mean, I know a lot of dipshits that came out of the military.
No, that's not what I'm getting at.
Very personally. Like, he's a prosecutor. I'm like, strike one. He's in the military. Strike two.
So the other aspect
I'm not just handing this to Mucci. I'm just saying.
The other aspect of it
better.
that I'm trying to get at is not that he's more believable because he's in the Air Force or that he's a prosecutor. Although I think that we should really, give him a little bit of credence because he's a former prosecutor.
Well, however, he's a lawyer. I mean, he's an intelligent person. He talks intelligently. He doesn't sound like a kook or something. He sounds intelligent. Mm-hmm. He sounds like, and I'm just being fair to Orlando here because I have heard this story and I've heard him speak on that podcast, and he sounds intelligent. He sounds, it seems like he truly believes he experienced this outrageous incident. But
there's a sense of earnestness.
Yes. So the part that I'm trying to get at with the military thing is that after him and his friend were, I guess, abducted that night, the military got involved in questioning both of them, separating both of them. They were to not have contact with each other. He got reprimanded when he tried to say goodbye to his friend that a few weeks later got stationed, I think it was in Germany or somewhere. So the military took actions to separate the two of them, to question them multiple times as to what they saw, where they saw it, did they take any pictures. Part of the reason why his memories came back later on is because the military, they questioned him and they brought someone in to try to hypnotize him. So there's this whole aspect of these, I don't know if they were military police or some sort of section of the military that were just kind of on him throughout the years. So that adds another layer of credibility.
Well, speaking of the military's reaction and their, taking such special concern over his case, I mean, isn't it been well documented by now that, the military and CIA and other agencies have done, experiments on troops and things essentially without their consent? So that, maybe to him, it feels like it fits into this narrative. His understanding of it is an abduction, but really he was just some guinea pig against his will for whatever experiment or whatever the army was trying to do.
And maybe his hypnotism was to convince him that this alien abduction story happened rather than something more nefarious that the government did.
I suppose they would get the same result with the two people. It doesn't really seem plausible to me that they would hypnotize both of them and they would have the same result with both of those people and then separate them afterwards.
Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't there. But isn't that not the whole point here? Is we're arguing, in some cases, beyond our experience. None of us was
Right.
alive in the 70s, but no, it's interesting, provoking at least. I do want to open things up to Mucci, though, if you want to fill us in more on one of the sightings that you think is, good evidence for your side that, and maybe I'm summarizing here, not necessarily that ghosts exist, but it's as likely as aliens existing.
I mean, I would just say when I hear stories of the Congress Hotel, for example, and I brought that up in my opening, but just
have you stayed there before, by the way?
I haven't. It seems I would like to.
It's too creeped out.
I might get. No, I might actually get too creeped out because and I get it.
It's a fine hotel.
Is it?
Yeah. No, the first time me and Shannon were in town, like 9 years ago, we stayed at the Congress.
Oh.
And you're talking about the kid who was thrown out of the window or something?
Yeah.
It's one of the only hotels that actually has like big ass windows that open. It's amazing.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, it was like
turn the heat on, crack the window open. Fantastic.
It was like a woman who her husband wasn't coming with them, her and the two kids, so she threw both of them out of the window and then threw herself to her death. And people report seeing the one of the little boys, I believe. I don't think both. But that is just as plausible to me that people, go stay at this hotel and see certain things. If someone told me they stayed at the Congress Hotel and they felt like they saw a ghost, I would believe it just as much as the story of Terry Lovelace. And I don't really have any personal connection to either of them, but
I think this position is kind of a little bit of a cop-out. Both positions sound ridiculous.
That is my point. Well, yes. But my point, I guess, is not as a cop-out, but that these people's stories of alien abductions don't have any more worth just because you can say, oh, it's based on science, or oh, it's based on the government doing nefarious things. If someone came to me and said they believed they were abducted by an alien, I'd believe them less than if they went somewhere and said they thought they saw a ghost. I guess that's my position. If you came to me, Pat, and said, oh my gosh, yeah, I swear I saw a ghost in this graveyard at whatever, versus if you came to me and said you thought you got abducted by a UFO, I would probably believe the ghost story more over the abduction story. Doesn't it sound more outrageous?
It's a step further. And not only did he see an alien, but the alien abducted him.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's like saying that you saw a ghost and then the ghost took you somewhere.
I actually want to bring up something here. And this is actually something that all of us have in common. You were asking, I was asking if you guys have personal connections, but at Lando's old apartment that overlooked that scary fucking playground. I mean, it was what, like 3 a.m,
and this is where I lose the
pitch
debate.
fucking dark. And okay, so I don't think that ghosts exist, but
we were convinced we saw
there's some
ghosts
creepy fucking shit. Yeah, so we're looking out this window to the south of his apartment, and there's this it's 3 a.m. No one is out, and there's this completely dark, unoccupied playground. And something, I mean, to our eyes, I think we said it was a little girl or something, swinging on the swing set by itself in the middle of the fucking night.
And Mr. Aliens over here, this girl he dubbed the Ghost Girl and was telling all of us, oh my gosh, it's -30 degrees out and there's this ghost girl on the swings outside.
I'll concede to that. So she was out there pretty regularly, starting around October actually, and then lasting until like maybe mid-January. We had a polar vortex. She was out there in the middle of the night. There's a couple times I did call 311 to see if she was okay.
Really? I didn't know that.
There was 2 different times, and then
did they ever do anything about it?
I think someone showed up. But she wouldn't be there when I would look out the next time.
She vanished?
I didn't see her go anywhere ever, so maybe, I don't know.
She only ever appeared on the swing.
There was that one time, though. So in terms of debunking Ghost Girl, there was one time where we were all at my place, probably like around 2 a.m. after having like a record night or something, where we went down there. And Mucci, you remember
For
this.
the off-the-record night?
Yes.
We might live stream those in the future, if you want to tune into a bunch of us
Absolutely.
trying to change the record for like 20 minutes.
No, we went down there to see if she was a ghost, and
someone went on the swings, I think. Swung next to her.
Yeah, and she looked like a real person, so she was not a ghost. So
Was
ghosts
she an
don't
alien?
exist.
Was she an alien?
She might have been.
Yeah. So, Mucci, I want to circle back to something you said, that if I came to you and told you a story about how I saw a ghost, you'd find that more believable or more plausible than if I'd come to you and said that not only did I see an alien, but I had been abducted by one. And so something that's always fascinated me is that there is this long history of, like, I'm going to call them ghost stories, or at least, experiences with what people attribute to being ghosts. Aliens are relatively new phenomena. I mean, I don't know if you're getting into the whole, like, biblical depictions of aliens and other shit like that you can find on the History Channel, Lando, but
I think he's got a lot of good things to say.
I just feel like there has been so many more frequent and for longer encounters with ghosts than there have with aliens, or at least coded as aliens, not angels or whatever they call them. And so, do you think the amount, just the pile over the years of ghost stories and encounters with them lends any more credence to your point, Mucci?
I think so, because as I had addressed earlier, it's like, why would aliens only start visiting us in the 40s or 50s? Why didn't they visit us earlier? That, you talk about plausibility. That doesn't seem plausible to me, that they would have been able to visit us 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago. But the first times you start hearing about alien encounters are in the 40s and 50s. Whereas, people have been talking about ghosts again for millennia, seeing ghosts and belief in an afterlife or something, some kind of spirituality, brought it on, probably. But, and also, right, ways that we didn't know how to explain the world back then. We thought that someone that we thought had died maybe hadn't died and had come back as a ghost. But
no, they just dug themselves out of their grave.
Right. But even despite all of that, even people that believe in science, if they said they saw a ghost, I would find that as believable as if they said they saw an alien. Much less that they were abducted by an alien, but even if they said they saw an alien, I would find that just as believable.
Yeah. You got anything on that, Lando?
I do. So, I guess, and both of you guys touched upon it. The fact that, yes, there might have been some kind of either recording or some kind of documentation on angels or some kind of ghost sighting that, they attributed it to ghosts. But,
sure.
Who's to say that that wasn't an alien sighting? Who's to say that wasn't a UFO sighting that they just couldn't comprehend because the technology wasn't there? And the whole fact of, or the whole point that you're trying to make, Mucci, with the 1940s and people are now starting to see UFOs, I just see that as, okay, now people have a reference point as to what they can mark down as what they saw. Whereas before, all they had was religion to point to, that they saw an angel in the sky, that they saw a figure that was glowing or something. I don't know what your ghosts look like, but they saw something that...
They swing on swing sets.
So that's where I'm coming from. I think that maybe before that time, before it became a science fiction staple, they just didn't know what to call it. And so they called it angels. They called it ghosts. They called it, trolls, goblins, anything. Lights in the sky. They saw fire in the sky. They write down in their textbooks that there was a fire in the sky on a certain date. And
couldn't you also say that, we didn't know what certain objects in the sky were, like, oh, those are the northern lights. Maybe we didn't know that, decades ago, and people saw that
decades?
And thought, oh, that, well...
It is 2021 for reference.
Yeah.
As long as I have lived, I think we've known about the northern lights.
No, but I mean, like, going back to like the 40s or something. If people saw, different planets and they didn't know that was a planet, and they thought, oh, that must be a UFO. You know.
I mean, sure, for some of it. But again, I kind of mentioned in the opening, my boy Tom DeLonge, who anyone who's listening should probably recognize as a true Blink-182 member. He
Real fans only.
He really did us some good, and that the government's now kind of disclosing these formerly classified files, and there's I think it was from 2004 to 2021. There was 144 unexplained aerial phenomena, and most of them are from people in the military. But I only mention that because it's Air Force pilots. It's people that would recognize one of their own planes or types of planes or the types of movements that these planes do. And they're recognizing that these either balls of light or lights in the sky are moving in an erratic fashion, different flight patterns than something that is powered by fire coming out of the back of a plane.
You're talking
or
about like
air.
The shaky, grainy black and white videos from the planes.
They were just released, yes, in July. So they released, I believe it's three videos, and you could hear the pilots, just kind of following them with their video, with their camera, and it's grainy because they're far, but there's these lights that are just kind of hovering around them, moving in different types of ways that our planes can't do. Any other plane that is known to us can do. And that just kind of ties back to the Foo Fighters, too. So the Foo Fighters back in the 40s, during World War II.
Excuse me, the Foo Fighters?
Yes, absolutely. Not those Foo Fighters.
I'm not the loop.
Although
what are you talking
about? Is Dave Grohl an alien?
Yeah. Love Dave Grohl. Also check out the
Blink-182.
DGs, his cover band of the Bee Gees. Just want to plug that real quick.
Link in bio.
Absolute joy.
So,
what are Foo Fighters?
So, I like how we went from Blink-182 to the Foo Fighters. Even though this isn't a music episode, we're still going to get back to the music.
It's going to get there eventually.
So the Foo Fighters, they're referred to as Foo Fighters. In the 1940s, World War II pilots observed these balls of light. Some of them saw them as just a ball of light. Some of them saw them as spheres that were glowing. They would just go around their aircraft, just kind of circling around them, moving in kind of weird ways, not typical of the planes at the time. It wasn't just
how big are these things? We're talking about.
I think they were smaller than their planes. But yeah, it was a common sighting, and they had no idea what they were. They thought they maybe were like a German experimental aircraft, but I think I might be corrected on this, but I think the Germans also saw them. So, that's something that absolutely they would know what's in the air with them. These things are moving around them. They're moving in weird ways that we can't reproduce.
It's funny that you mentioned the Air Force, though, because my cousin, who's in the Air Force, is one of the only people
who's seen a UFO.
Who's seen a ghost. Who's told me he's seen a ghost.
Oh, so.
Really? Well, yeah, that sounds believable. He is in uniform, after all.
Yes. I mean, this was a long time ago. When he was
a baby.
Younger. He said he saw ghosts at Gettysburg, and he he's like, no, legitimately, I did. And I was like, okay. And I didn't believe it, but I mean, yeah, if he had told me, and he's an intelligent guy, if he had told me, it's probably classified information, if he had told me that he thought he'd seen an alien, I'd probably believe him too. But he hasn't, so he's only told me he's seen a ghost.
Was it the first time he had gone to Gettysburg?
Yeah, it might have been, yeah.
Okay. Does he know that they reenact certain battles?
No, I saw a full battle happen between two battalions of ghosts. It was crazy.
So I want to get another question that's kind of been bubbling up here. Lando just brought up how even as recently as this year, these files were released in, you said July, but some of the sightings are from like 2020, 2021 in these released files. And so one of the things I've always found interesting is that, so that you're talking about the Congress Hotel ghosts, and maybe those are like 20s, 30s, 40s. Mm-hmm. But there's not like modern ghosts, and
people are dying
more than ever. More and more.
There's just more people.
And so there's no ghost that like is asking you for your Wi-Fi password. And I have to give credit here to our good friend Derek Sandberg. I was discussing with him prior to the show. But yeah, so ghost stuff, it's like, okay, like if it's plausible that could have happened in like a Victorian house, like that's spooky ghost stuff. But there's no like ghost that, is wandering around with a, I don't know, Nickelback CD or something. But there's no ghost in like Jinko jeans.
The ghosts themselves aren't modern, or
yeah, like there's no new
which I feel like that would be a good band name.
To Gettysburg.
The Modern Ghosts.
Yeah, the Modern Ghost, absolutely. Yeah.
But he didn't see like a tourist that died at Gettysburg. He saw a Civil War soldier. That's what I'm saying. Is that like have no new ghosts been created in like the last 20 years? Say,
I really don't know.
Oh.
Yeah, the Ghost Girl was from the 1910s. Actually.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
In modern clothing.
You could tell by the sewing machine, the stitches on her clothes, I think. All right, so I just want to add one more thing on the idea of sort of modern ghosts, and this is not something that happened. It's something that happened to me, not something I necessarily personally believe. But so my brother had passed away when I was like 13 years old or so. So obviously, like community and everything. It was all tore up, and I grew up in sort of more conservative part of the country in Ohio. People were like very religious. Mm-hmm. At this time, my family like still went to church and stuff, but just there's this foundation of sort of a belief in afterlife, and sort of to Orlando's earlier point that might be a slice of this idea of there's unexplained phenomena that we're trying to apply our current knowledge to. So after my brother passed, they were doing some like fundraiser or something at the high school that he went to, and like our family and Anthony were like really well known. Like we basically had a lot of fucking Legos at our house, like all the time. Like you come into the Grimaldi's house, there was like an entire like half of our basement that was just the Lego room.
That's awesome.
And so one of our friends at this like fundraiser thing was on the stage in the gym during this fundraiser, and was over like when they were walking backstage, found like a little Lego brick on the stage, and she was like, to her, it's like, what would this even be doing at a high school?
Yeah.
Instantly she thought of Anthony, and so she saw it, interpreted the presence of that thing as some sort of like continuation or from the spirit of my deceased brother had manifested that. Mm-hmm. This isn't like a miracle, like, Mother Mary weeping on some water stain or something, but it was just interesting that like for her, that was actually like a real thing.
Yeah.
I don't deny the Lego brick was there. She wasn't BSing us. But for her, the implausibility or the randomness of finding the Lego brick in such proximity to my brother having passed away, like reinforced this friend's belief in there being an afterlife, there being something that happens after you've passed away.
Right.
And so, yeah, I think it was just a random Lego brick at a high school that had a robust, arts program and weird kids that would play with Legos at school. But I don't know, it's just that, like, that for her is a modern ghost. And it wasn't like something exceptional, like, oh my God, this is like the first ghost I've ever seen in my life. It's just like, oh yeah, like, of course, like, Anthony's up in heaven, so like he's still leaving signs and stuff to help out those people that are grieving.
Scary thing. It's a comforting thing, or a
right.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's
so that's the only modern ghost sighting.
Yeah,
that I know of
about,
personally.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe this is too much. Orlando's shaking his head over here. Sorry if I made you uncomfortable, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's when I think of like a modern ghost. That's like the only thing I can come up with. I haven't heard again, other than our swing set girl, any modern ghost story. So, I don't know if we want to leave it on that. If, listeners want to call in, give us their thoughts before the next one.
We prefer email.
Yeah, sure.
Tweets.
If we set up an email for this podcast anyway. So probably offtherecord@gmail.com.
Something like that.
Yeah, we'll just dub in whatever it is after this.
No, the question that you brought up earlier about the more unnerving realization, being alone in the universe, or is there an afterlife? Yeah, I mean, I can understand that the more unnerving realization is that we are not alone in the universe than the belief in an afterlife, because
what's unnerving then about not being alone?
I think it'd be more unnerving knowing that we weren't alone, because that means that something's out there that's most likely far more advanced than us. And I mean, judging just by human nature and how we treat ourselves, I really don't think there'd be any good things they would have for us.
No. I think that is more unnerving. I think that something else is out there is more unnerving than believing in the afterlife. I do agree with that.
It's like the shark and the...
Because I'm going to disagree with our debaters here.
No, we're on the same side on this, because that's what I think. That's why. That's why.
This is my court.
I think that's why people believe in the afterlife, though, because it is comforting. It is, my loved one or my friend passed, and I don't want to believe that they are, gone for good, right? You want to believe that they are somewhere else. Their spirit is still living and is happy and is passed on to a better place. That is a more comforting belief than the belief that there's something else out there.
And I think that comfort factor is why there's so many reports of ghosts.
That's probably true. I mean...
Thank you. I'm glad you agree.
Yeah, so I'm just going to go ahead and disagree with both of you on both points. Okay. I think the idea that there is just such vastness that we have not explored, that we can barely conceive of beyond our planet, and that if we can confirm that we are the only intelligent life, I think that is just insane. If that were actually the truth, that we are completely alone, I think that is just, I don't know. You can look at the big things and think of, there's so many galaxies and stars and things. Obviously, Earth is insignificant. But then on top of that, there's life here, but it hasn't done anything. If we're the first intelligent life, or whatever stage we might be in, but just such empty vastness, I think, just chills me.
If we are completely alone, I would then believe that we're a simulation. This is Sims number 2025, and we're in our little house.
Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe we can tackle the simulation thing in another episode. But yeah, just to end this on a bit of a lighter note, not get so existential. In your opinion, which aliens versus ghosts has a better depiction in the media? So you need to prove your point and also trash, your opponents.
Little Green Men. I think
that's
I think that's a better depiction. You see him as cute and cuddly in Toy Story. You could see him as scary beings. They're all over the place.
I think aliens have an awesome depiction in the media. I think it's really, really cool. Like the movies about abductions, I love the X-Files too, and the movie Alien and Aliens as well are great. But there's just, but as it comes down to, like, I'm a horror guy. I like the more horror stuff.
Guy.
Yeah. So I think I would side with ghosts on that one, and I also think there's more variety in the depictions of ghosts. It could be there's even of course there's a famous romantic comedy, Ghost, right? Or there's scary ghosts. There's helpful ghosts. There's friendly ghosts.
Yeah.
There's a wider, but maybe it goes back to the millennia that ghosts have been depicted. There's more depictions of them, probably. And a larger history of ghost depictions. I think that ghosts have a better depiction in the media.
So everything that he mentioned, you can just add that to aliens. They're friendly aliens. There's, if you watch the T-Zone, I'm pretty sure there's a couple of episodes where there's friendly aliens, there was aliens that were going to attack us, that used
Ones
us
that
against each
want to
other.
serve man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a great
So,
episode.
Orlando, what's your favorite depiction then of aliens in popular media?
Well, if you want to go the comedy route, you could just talk about Mars Attacks.
Do you want to go the comedy route?
Galaxy Quest?
Galaxy Quest. Great one.
I'm just feeding him
Thank
media
you.
depictions of aliens.
I appreciate that.
And Mucci?
Oh, the best ghost depiction?
Yeah.
Oh. I mean, maybe in like the other... Or is it The Others? The one with Nicole Kidman? Where like the twist at the end is her kids are ghosts, I think. Or she's a
I
ghost.
thought that was an
That's
alien
good.
movie.
The Others. That's pretty good.
Turns out her kids are aliens the whole time.
Well, Sixth Sense is
Wild.
Sixth Sense is the one with the twist where he's a ghost the whole time.
Is that
Spoiler
good?
alert.
Does Paranormal Activity count as a ghost? I feel like there's just it's a wider kind of the depictions are more varied. I feel like.
I mean, is the ring a ghost? It's like a haunting.
Yeah,
Does a haunting necessitate a ghost?
I don't know. It almost feels like you can lump so many things into that category.
Like Poltergeist, it's not a ghost.
Poltergeist, right? Not a ghost. Yeah.
I think maybe we'll have to unpack this a little bit more in the next episode. So I'm not gonna ask. I'm gonna say. So you guys have nothing else to say? Yeah. Because I know if I said, "Do you have anything else to say?" the answer would be yes, and this would turn into a 2-hour journey.
Yeah.
But could you sum up your positions with, just one sentence of why you think, your position is better? I guess that's what we're trying to get to the essence to here. And I'll let Mucci lead since Lando got the, no. Yeah, you got the first word. Mucci should get the last word.
That's fine. I'll just say that we are not alone. I want to believe. You
Just
okay
because
there?
he wants to believe doesn't mean it's true. Doesn't make it any more true than ghosts existing.
And I think I should get a rebuttal, considering he copped out and
He's a
basically
prosecutor.
says that both of these topics are ridiculous.
I didn't say they're both ridiculous. I said that alien abduction stories or alien UFO sightings are no more believable than ghost sightings or ghost stories. They're not inherently more worthy just because you can say they're based on science.
So we're looking at here, Orlando has taken on the burden of actually trying to prove his side. For Mucci, you're presenting plausible alternatives and generally skepticism.
Yeah.
Is what you've presented. And so that's what I'm going to evaluate is, did Orlando do a better job of proving his side, or is your skepticism essentially better proof? And I don't know. So Orlando, I've never heard about the army abduction thing that you were talking about, whose name I can't remember. Because that's going to be a long-running joke because I can't remember anyone's name. It's very confusing. And so, while I also have my own skepticism about there being a lack of ghosts after, say, like 1980, no new ghosts, I do think that your skepticism was better proven than the evidence that Orlando presented here. So I'm going to have to give mild bragging rights and a full point to Mucci.
A full point this week?
A full point, yeah. And I can't, Lando, I mean, I need to recognize that you did the research, that there are, the idea of getting to the scope of unexplainable things, and your point about, well, the same things have been happening and now we have the language to call them aliens. I think that's important. And I think that's sort of common ground here is that there are unexplainable things that happen. And so I'm going to award you 1/100th of a point.
Just don't do
this
it.
Week. No, it counts. It's going to add up. It's going to add up. So yeah, I don't know.
That's insult to injury at this point.
It's in court, your client
Don't
might lose,
patronize
but
me.
they get out, on time served. Like, you're gonna pop champagne after that.
So my argument was 100 times better than Orlando's this week.
That doesn't add up.
Yeah, that is exactly what I'm saying here. Yeah. So I don't know. Was this a friendly debate?
It was a friendly debate.
Not at all.
Well, I think until about 5 seconds ago it was.
He's soured.
Yeah. Anyway, this has been Off the Record.
A friendly debate.
Friendly debate indeed. Doesn't even fizz. That sucked.